Hey everybody, Ryan Good with you here on the second day of April. First storm talk of the season. Doesn't mean we're done with snow, you guys know better than that, but I'll come back to that toward the end here. Let's focus on the alert day for tomorrow, which we declared on Sunday when we first saw signs this last week on the blog here for watching. This was a potential setup for Tuesday, and then as more information was coming in, as it always the case in severe weather, you need more detail, especially on how unstable you can be, the clearer the picture is becoming. So still have a lot of questions more than answers, but at least we're getting a good snapshot of that it's going to be active regardless. Now we're starting to see today some clearing trying to work its way in across our northern section, so some sun is possible, but bet on more clouds than anything closer to the front here to the south. That front is going to sag a bit more into Tennessee, and then that's it. Then we'll get the low moving off the Rockies. It will then begin to tug on this front, especially on the western side of it, and begin to lift it back north, and that will be the warm front. And as that happens, it will lead to more showers and thunderstorms, and what likely will be some hail that could develop. Not expecting severe weather. This looks to be more of an elevated thunderstorm scenario, which I'll explain that here in just a second, but it could be active later tonight and certainly early tomorrow morning, and warmer too, and windier. Looking at the SPC outlooks as they stand now, this recording, the marginal risk of level 1 out of 5 to our north. This would account for the warm front activity moving in. We'll see if that gets adjusted or not as they get a better handle on the placement of the warm front tonight and early tomorrow. Now, tomorrow afternoon, evening, this is where, of course, the main show kicks in. We are now at level 3 on a scale of 5 or enhanced. Some of the data suggests that we may have to increase this. Oh, I got a yellow wand. Hold on. We may have to increase this at least potentially a little more to the west, northwest, kind of like this. May end up being what it'll look like. If some of the most recent data trends are coming in are correct, and I'll explain that here in just a second as well. Let me show you at least RPM, which, I mean, every model is going to vary a bit on the details and the exact timing and placement, but the overall theme is the same on every model, and that's what I want you guys to get from this presentation here. Is tonight we've got, really today, quiet day today, as I mentioned, in the mid-50s. Now, tonight is when you start to see how that warm front begins to lift in. We get reaction to it, showers and some thunderstorms, some locally heavy. Then as we get to 9 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be warmer when you wake up tomorrow morning than what it will be when you go to bed tonight. Classic warm surge during the night event. Now we're entering what we call the warm sector of the system, because now the warm front is to our north, and this is the danger zone, if you will. I'm not going to play the Top Gun song part. Don't even think about it. But anyway, we are entering the danger zone for this setup starting about 9 to 10 a.m. But we're going to become relatively quiet for a while. We're not going to be capped or stable for very long. This is actually a fairly unstable setup, but we're going to warm quickly, 70 degrees, if not warmer by noon, and then we're going to climb to the upper 70s. I've got us going to 80 for tomorrow, which is higher than the models are indicating, but I still think that's reachable, and this warm flow, the amount of sun will determine that, but it's going to be very windy as well. Could even see wind advisories come out for a lot of the Ohio Valley for wind gust potential near 40 miles per hour, while mainly when it's sunny outside tomorrow afternoon. So kind of a mixed feeling tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be rainy early on, and then we'll get the sun to come through. It's going to be warm out. It's going to feel like late April probably to you. Everyone's going to be in that spring mood, but you got to keep in the back of your mind what's coming later, and that is this mess. The squall line, really, it's going to be a very wavy looking line, which isn't good when it comes to damage and wind potential and even isolated tornadoes. But in general, we are talking about the potential for some showers and thunderstorms in the area coming in for tomorrow evening. Now, one thing I'll show you in a second, there's a chance for some cells to pop in and advance this line. That would determine our high temperature for the afternoon as well as the timing in a big way, and would likely influence the second main line that moves through. So they can kind of disrupt things, although they can be sometimes the most dangerous, the ones that jump out ahead of the main line. So I'm seeing signals for that. I'll show you that example too coming up. I've got a lot to show you. But you can see the general idea is it's going to be after 5 o'clock, mainly though 8 to 11, if I had to pin down the time even more so. Then after that it gets colder again, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's look at the soundings here. If you guys are not familiar with this, this is at the ground level where we're standing, and this is up here, roughly, like you see where the airplanes fly. There are your winds, very strong winds aloft, even just above the surface, very strong winds. Green is your moisture line, red is your temperature line. When they're far apart, you're saturated. When you're far apart, you're dry. When you're touching, you're saturated. And if you see a yellow line, that is your instability axis. Now, here's the sounding like 5 in the morning. Notice there is some instability to allow for some lightning and thunder. and perhaps some heavy rain and some hail because we got some dry pockets here, but the instability doesn't go all the way down to the ground level. That's why it's elevated. So you can get some strong winds showing up on the radar in many cases, but they don't always make it down to the ground level. So that's why I think severe weather threat is pretty low. It's not zero, but it's low. I think it's going to be a situation of noisy thunderstorms and heavy rain and some pea-sized hail, maybe dime size. Now we advance it to the afternoon, like 7 o'clock. Now we're dealing with an incredible amount of wind aloft, over 100 to 130 knots above our heads. Crazy stuff there. The instability axis, the yellow line, now is building all the way down to the lower layers of the atmosphere. We've got dry pockets here, which is what you would have to lead to a damaging wind threat. If it were completely saturated all the way up, you're dealing with nothing but a very tropical heavy rain flooding deal. But when you get them spaced out enough, then you're dealing with the potential for the evaporative cooling to kick in a sense, evaporative process to allow for some of these thunderstorms to really put down some strong wind gusts. But this is the section I want to focus on, all the indices. And this is all nerdy stuff. I won't go into a lot of detail, but just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, Cape, anytime you go over 1100, you are looking at severe weather. The cap is only 7. If you're 0 to 25, you're usually pretty good to have an unstable setup, and it's only 7. You can only go to 0. Helicity, 320. You get over 300, you're looking at some decent-sized supercells that can form and rotating thunderstorms. EHI, anything over 2 can lead to supercells. It's 2.6. The BRN number, the Volk-Richardson number itself, is about 10. Normally you would want that closer to like a 35 or so to get more into a supercell idea. So it's not, it's there, but it's not off the chain or anything. Lifted index, -6. Very unstable. Obviously moderate unstable. Let me correct my terminology. Very unstable is when we get probably about -8 to -9. But moderately unstable, yes. Totals at 58. You can get severe weather, in fact, be quite likely once you cross 52. So we're at 58. Let's see. Sweat index, 546 is when you're dealing with severe weather and isolated tornadoes. Once you're in 4 to 600, once you go over 600, you're talking about tornadoes happen nearly every time in that situation. We're not to 600, but we're 546. All right, so it gives you just a general idea. A lot of red here. So the atmosphere is certainly unstable. And yeah, you're going to ask me, I know you are we going to go to moderate risk? I don't know that. We're right on the threshold of a high-end slight and a low-end moderate, which is why enhanced was a category that was created to account for that level in between. So right now, I think enhanced will fit. Now, if we were to see values like this go a little bit higher, and we were to cross over 80, then that's a different ballgame. But right now, I think we're okay. Here's what I was talking about on some of the high-res models, the NAM coming in, indicating that based on some of the severity of the shear, they may have to expand that potential a little more north and a little bit more west of the land between the lakes area. I think Louisville and most wave country would still be included, but just kind of expand it a little bit more on the northwest side. Now, here's what the ARW, WRF model, is showing for tomorrow afternoon. Notice it's got 2 lines because it's trying to think that there will be some cells that pop out ahead of the main line. I'm not ruling that out, guys. I think that is possible. We got to watch those. They have a better potential to rotate compared to the main line, but they can, if they don't get going, if the atmosphere is not ready for them per se, then they can't disrupt the second line, and then we end up lucking out in both cases, and then it's the Tennessee area that ends up taking the brunt of it. So a lot of questions still, and I wish I had more answers, but I don't. So we've got to leave it at that. I did look at the analogs. I did compare it to the top analog is April 20th of 2011, and this is what that was like. Really, it was a nighttime event, 19th through the 20th. Crazy outbreak of severe weather. In fact, it was one of the record-breaking ones. No, I do not see it being like this. Just to clarify, we were like 84 degrees the day before that hit, and we've been in 70s, 80s for nearly 2 weeks before that. So this is a different atmospheric setup overall, but the position of the warm front and the cold front, I think, is what it's kind of picking up on there more than anything. All right, looking ahead, we do see the system for the cold and snow for the weekend. The trend here in a lot of the models is that the dive of the colder air is going to be so strong that it's trying to force the snow potential south of Louisville into Tennessee and southern Kentucky. That's been a trend so far today. Does that mean it has room now to trend back north? That typically does happen. So anyway, again, Friday night and Saturday, we'll worry about that later on. We got enough on our plate in the next 24 hours. Take care, guys. I'll see you at midday.